Hope I get the chance to travel the world, but I don't have any plans. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wise.
Yo, I figured as I did Tacit Alfred Hitchcock, that being Psycho, why not Psycho 2? As the trailer said, 22 years later, and Norman Bates is home. I think originally there weren't going to be any sequels, there wasn't going to be any third ones or any other sequels. But over the years, from the 60s to the 70s, there was biographies, it was a popular film, there was biographies of Alfred Hitchcock, and there was biographies of Psycho. Now, the film-known director who saw Psycho was a big fan, a big fan of Alfred Hitchcock. And it was Alfred Hitchcock that went to special college, making a pronouncement on what it's like to be a director, and the master of suspense, that inspired this director to make the sequel 22 years later, and he made the sequel, that being Psycho 2. It's not a bad one and it's pretty good, and it's the only time you do actually have sympathy for the character of Norman Bates, played again by Anthony Perkins. Now Anthony Perkins, with my murder coffee, was having nothing doing Norman Bates because it was such a popular role for him. He said why not? It was like 10 odd days later, and then it's how they followed the story on. The director, bear with me, is the same director who only given us 2 years after one of my other favourite films, that being Fright Night. And again, the story is basically simple. He's in court and they're going to police him on insanity, meaning he's now sane, he can now live a normal life. You got some of the characters from the original, like Aunt Luna's, you may remember was Janet Leigh's sister in the original. She's also in this. In this though, you're not as sympathetic, she comes across being bitter. Same time you can sort of understand why they're letting the guy out who murdered her sister. But no, it's one of them, it's the only film that actually makes you feel sympathy for a psychopath. It's the only film that makes you feel, when you think about it, it's the only film that makes you feel sympathetic on the fucking killer. Because when you think about it, the original Psycho was more of a murder mystery. Your main character was Janet Leigh, famous shower scene, end of that, and most of it was a whodunit. So did you really know that Anthony Perkins, as Norman Bates, was the killer? No, you didn't. But as the film goes on, excuse me dog, as the film goes on, you get the opening which to show the iconic famous shower scene once again, Janet Leigh, the famous Psycho theme. And again over the years I thought, well, it's not the same about the famous Psycho scene. Now you've got to understand that I saw Psycho 2 well before I saw the original. Now, when I first saw it, it was in its uncut form. And then over the years, there was bits that was cut out, which I might talk about. Again, they're trying to set him up, Norman Bates, for the murder. And there's bits in it where you think, is Norman Bates doing these murders? Is he actually killing the people who he gets famed for? And he isn't. And you think about it, in this film, it's the only film where Norman Bates does not kill anybody until the end of the fucking film. I'm going ahead of myself. You've got another beautiful girl in it. She's been in a lot of films. I'm trying to think of her name. But she's been in loads of films over the years, from the 80s and a bit of the 90s. She was in Body Snatchers, the 1993 one. I can remember the name. She was a beautiful looking girl in that era. Very short, dark hair. Nice scene where she strips off in the shower. Whether it was her or a body double, different story. And again, they're trying to set Norman Bates up for the murders. And there's a bit in it where he is almost going insane. You're trying to feel sorry for Norman Bates because he's trying to get on with his life and he's trying to live a normal life. Sorry about that, someone's making noise as usual. But as I was about to say, yeah, they're trying to set Norman Bates up. Now in the film you got again Tibby Hepburn, that was her name. And again, there's this famous scene where you think they're going round the bend, and he thinks he is going insane. And the scene where she goes down the basement, which originally she was saved in the original, she wasn't in this. The aunt goes in, looks around, and that's when the knife comes out, stabs in one side of her mouth, and the knife goes on the end of the head. They did graphic do some scene. Of course, you can see now it's a bit dated. You see now it's a rat's work dummy, but it's a fast shot, and I pick that over shitty CGI any day of the week. Over the years on TV, that scene was cut down, and you don't see the famous scene where the knife goes in the mouth. Now it's in its uncut form. Again, you know what I mean? It's a film that makes you feel sorry for Norman Bates. It makes you feel sorry for the character. You don't, I say it was there since I saw the original. So when I saw Psycho 2, that's the one I saw the most, you know, in its uncut form. And even when it was cut down, and I could see it in its uncut form, which does have a bit more meat to it. But it's not one where you're going into blood and gore. It's more psychological. You want to see blood and gore, just get to Psycho fucking 3. But Psycho 2, it's more suspenseful. It's more psychological, just like the original. And you do find out who the killer is, who's doing these murders. Now this is the bit where I can have a pick and moan at, because I never bought this old lady who works in the taffy with Norman Bates before he got to work in the back in his motel. I never bought this little old lady as being the killer, and I never bought her being Norman Bates' mum. And do you, honest to God, do you believe the little old lady would do all these murders? And the other ironic thing is, you find out, right, as the film goes, that Norman Bates' mum, who raised him when he was a lad, is not his mum. She's not his fucking mummy. This old lady who he was working with in a motel, before he got the motel, is Norman Bates' mum. And in that, Norman Bates, you think he's going to whack her with a shuffle, doesn't happen. He poisons her. Well, actually, no, he doesn't poison her. What the fuck am I on about? Yeah, you think he's going to poison this little old lady. See, I'm going round the bend. You think he's going to put poison in the coffee, just like he mentioned in the original, and she was going to fall down dead. Doesn't. He whacks her on the head with a shuffle, I meant to say. Sort of as she stitches. He hears Norman Bates imitating his mum, and it ends with an iconic cover. I'll show you the cover. There is Matt. It ends with this cover here, the iconic cover of Norman Bates stood there looking like a dick. Ends with that. It's Norman Bates trying to get on with his life. You've got Titty Hepburn trying to drive him round the bend. You've got his mum trying to drive him round the bend. And at the end, he goes round the bend, and he gets the motel back from when he's working in the taffy. He does have a social worker in the film who tries to help him, but he gets killed halfway in the film. Again, that's the 10 colour. Again, if you're going in for too much blood and gore, it doesn't, but in the uncut form, like I say, you've got the knife in the dob, goes through the head. You've got knives in Norman Bates' hands. When Titty Hepburn almost goes on the bend, she stabs him in the hands. Not a bad film, and it definitely made the third film, which I felt was a bit of a step down, but I don't hate the third one. It was a bit of a step down from this one, because I've more or less watched this one when I was growing up. It's a good film, psychological. It was this until I saw Psycho, the original. But Psycho 2, it's not a bad one. You know, it's psychological and it's suspenseful. And as I said, the director did giving us this. It was a big fan of Alfred Hitchcock. 2 years later, giving us Fright Night, another good film which I reviewed. But other than that, I do other reviews on the way, other to tests. Into then, see you later.